Yellowstone Volcano, the supervolcano. Will another California earthquake trigger the Yellowstone eruption? Tom Fish Express UK reports. Now, we've had a tremendous amount of earthquake swarms after the 6.4 that we had yesterday, and we've had very big aftershocks, one of them being today's 5.4. The geologists are predicting that there will be continual seismic activity and even a bigger earthquake than the 6.4, which was originally posted as a 6.6. Now, what effect does this have on Yellowstone supervolcano? But they talk about Yellowstone. What about the one that's only about 160 miles north, which is another supervolcano, the Long Valley Caldera, which is also one of the one of the volcanoes of California that is supposed to be a threatening volcano. Tom Fish reports of Express UK, Yellowstone volcano has the potential to produce cataclysmic destruction across the US. So could another California earthquake trigger an eruption at Yellowstone? Let's remember that a few months ago, the geologists were saying that earthquakes could trigger Yellowstone. Even the waves of the Yellowstone Lake, which is over the caldera, have the ripples of the waves and stronger waves during stronger winds have the potential to trigger an earthquake in the caldera area. So that's what they're afraid of, earthquakes. Now, a magnitude 6.4 earthquake rattled the nerves of the Southern Californians yesterday, with the quake's epicenter only 115 miles northeast of Los Angeles, between Los Angeles and Las Vegas, in the Coso volcanic field, which has molten magma underneath, very close to the surface. And we know that there is the largest geothermal production unit in the United States is situated right there. We also have volcanoes, cinder cones there, which are quite young, one of them being the Volcanic Peak volcano, which is right in that area. Now, the 6.4 rattling Southern Californians, with the quake's epicenter 150 miles northeast of Los Angeles. They did feel it in Los Angeles, they felt it in the area of Las Vegas. I would venture to say about half of California felt the 6.4 earthquake yesterday. Although relatively benign, the California earthquake revived concerns. The area surrounding the notorious San Andreas fault line is due for another big one, a magnitude 8 or higher quake. This thought has also led some to wonder whether another more powerful California earthquake could trigger another geologic event, meaning it could trigger Yellowstone supervolcano eruption. Ben Edwards, a law professor at university, a law professor, mind you, he's a law professor, he's not a geologist. The law professor at University of Las Vegas tweeted, "I had a flash of terror that maybe Yellowstone had actually gone off and I'd need to strike out in some direction to try to escape the ash cloud." So could another California earthquake trigger a Yellowstone volcanic eruption? Before we go into this, I want you to know the video before this one had to do with geologists, USGS geologists, saying that just because we had this earthquake activity in the Ridgecrest area, it does not mean that the San Andreas pressure has been released. The San Andreas fault pressure has not been released. That is still locked and loaded, and the big one is still awaiting. They're still awaiting for the big one. Okay, so this fault line has nothing to do with the San Andreas, and the San Andreas pressure has not been released by this earthquake activity in the Coso volcanic field. So, could another California earthquake trigger Yellowstone? While an eruption at Yellowstone in the distant future is possible, the probability of it happening in the next few thousand years is exceedingly low, according to the U.S. Geological Survey. The magma lurking in Yellowstone's shallow reservoir is between just 5 and 15% molten, they say, and an eruption usually requires at least 50% to gel in this gooey molten state. More likely than such an explosion is a lava flow, a spurt of slowly oozing molten rock, as we saw, for example, in Kilauea. So instead of the huge supervolcano, super eruption, they say that perhaps more likely is something like we had in Kilauea with a lava flow eruption. Now, although the lava flow can pose hazards, of course, for communities that lie in the path of the lava, or spectators attempting to approach close enough to get a glimpse of what it's like, those dangers are much easier to predict than avoid. And however, there are rare historic precedents for magnitude 6 or greater earthquakes with linked to subsequent eruption or at a nearby volcano. The exact triggering mechanism for these historic examples is not well understood, but the volcanic activity probably occurs in response to severe ground shaking caused by the earthquake or a change in the pressure of the Earth's crust. For example, in November 1975, a large magnitude 7.2 earthquake struck Hawaii's Big Island. It was centered about 17 miles southeast of Kilauea volcano, which proceeded to erupt. A volcano such as Yellowstone is considered super if an explosion has ever released more than 240 cubic miles of material. Little in reality is really understood about supervolcano triggers. Now, in the past, the geologists have said that supervolcanoes don't act like regular volcanoes. They're more sensitive in that their magma chamber is bigger and the roof of the magma chamber is bigger, and of course that means that slight changes in pressure could cause the roof of the magma chamber to crack faster or more easily than a regular volcano. Now, they don't understand supervolcanoes that much, what triggers them, and it's true, thankfully, because no supervolcano has ever been active enough to study in detail, at least in our lifetime. Now, USGS studies have estimated an eruption of the Yellowstone supervolcano may be 1,000 times more powerful than the 1980 eruption of Mount St. Helens volcano, which spewed a combination of magma, vapor, ash, rocks, and gases into the air. The explosion's aftermath and molten ash spread for more than 1,000 miles or 1,500 kilometers. The Yellowstone supervolcano has erupted on 3 major occasions. The supervolcanic eruption last erupted 174,000 years ago and last flowed with lava around 70,000 years ago. Okay, now, the 174,000 years ago, this is the first time I have ever seen this number. We know that we had a supervolcanic eruption 2.1 million years ago, then at 1.3 million years ago, then at 630 or 640,000 years ago, and then a more massive eruption at 70,000 years ago, and that we had 80 eruptions since then, and that we're overdue for another eruption. Most likely lava, they say. But a supervolcanic eruption of 174,000 years ago, that's the first time I've seen that number. Really. Now, every time they talk about the supervolcano eruption, we get more detail somehow stuffed in there we never knew about. So it also erupted 174,000 years ago, about 100,000 years ago before the 70,000 year ago eruption. Now, the first eruption 640,000 years ago created the famous Yellowstone caldera, a volcanic crater measuring 30 miles wide and 44 miles across. The magnitude 6.4 California earthquake in Ridgecrest, is in the Coastal Volcanic Field south of Long Valley Caldera, supervolcano, via dating methods. Geophysical and geochemical studies detect a zone of partially molten rock magma is underlying the center of the Coastal Volcanic Field. So, no one can tell you that it may not be volcano related, because we have partly molten magma right under this volcanic field. Small to moldering, moldering magma. Small to moderate earthquakes, some due to the geothermal resource, are common. U.S. Navy monitors earthquakes and geothermal activity within the Kosovo volcanic field. So there you have it. It is a volcanic field. It's got partially molten magma, and we have moderate earthquakes regularly due to geothermal resource, which are common. And we have not yet, we'll look for it. Maybe they will come up with it now that people have found out that it is earthquakes are rattling in this Kosovo volcanic field. Now that people know, maybe they'll come out and say, yes, it may be volcano related. Because, you know, the thing is with the geologists, they have an obligation to inform people. That's their job. That's why they're there. And it's not good if they're trying to hide the fact that there may be an active volcano underneath. Who knows? Maybe the magma is trying to come up. We don't know. So we'll keep an eye on this. It's rattling, as you can see, and a tremendous number of thousands of earthquakes, and still continuing. The red, as we said, is the past hour. Strange inverted L shape. Strange L shape there. Again, it's on the fault lines. As we know, the volcanoes and the mountains are on fault lines, and you can see that definitely right here. Okay. These are all, of course, volcanoes, these peaks. Inyo. And they did say that if we had a volcanic eruption, it would be lava, and it would be from the Mono Inyo craters, which are, of course, just south of the Long Valley caldera, the supervolcano. And this is, you can see the ridge right there, Rocky Mountains. Okay, going down. Okay, let's go in a little bit more. And we'll find even more. Okay, there we have even more. Argus Peak, and we had, and this, I think this is the one that's the Volcano Peak. That's it. That's Volcano Peak right there. So you can see that this whole area, and look how clean that is. The volcanic flows. Look at this, cinder cones everywhere. You can see this everywhere, and that's Volcano Peak right there as well. Okay, pulling out. Okay, and just for your information, let's just 22 miles from well, it's in the area of the quakes, of course. This whole thing is, as we said, partially molten magma. Partially molten magma. Small, moderate quakes, but now these are, of course, the bigger quakes, and we have to keep an eye out. People, of course, in Los Angeles are feeling them continuously, the bigger ones, and please be alert, all of you that are out there. Be prepared, have your water bottle, your telephone charged, your vital papers, your documents, and you know, some water, some change of clothes, and whatever you need. Have your car filled up with gas, and just be alert. Okay, God bless you. Thank you. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.